In this lesson, we're going to be talking about literal equations. Our guiding question for the lesson is, what makes an equation literal? If we look at our definition for a literal equation, we can see that a literal equation is an equation that involves two or more variables. Two or more variables. So if we look back up at our guiding question, what makes an equation literal? An equation is literal if it has two or more variables. So now let's look at the process of rewriting a literal equation, because that's what we'll do the most often with literal equations, is rewrite them in a different form. If we look at this particular problem, it asks us to solve the equation 10x plus 5y equals 80 for y. That means I want to get the y by itself. That y I want to get by itself. So that means anything that's on the same side with the y needs to go to the other. So if I follow my steps for solving an equation, I'm going to get rid of anything that I can undo by addition or subtraction first. So I've got the 10x on the same side as the 5y. So to undo this 10x, I would need to minus the 10x. And if I minus it on this side, I also have to minus it on the right side. So it zeroes out over here on the left, and it leaves me with 5y. And I can't combine 80 and negative 10x because they are not like terms, so I just write what it says. 80 minus 10x. Then I have to go ahead and finish getting y by itself. So I have 5 times y on the left. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get y equals, I take 80 and divide it by 5. And I get 16. Then I have my minus sign. And then I have 10x divided by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I have 2x. So I get y equals 16 minus 2x. So now that I have it solved for y, I can go through step 2 and use that equation to find the value when x is 3 and when x equals 6. So for our first instance, we're going to have x equals 3. So into the equation, I'm going to put 3 in place of x. And I get 16 minus 2 times 3, which is 10. And then our second situation is when x equals 6. So that means I'm going to have y equals 16 minus 2 times 6, which means y would equal 4. Sometimes our literal equations will only have variables in them. Try not to let this scare you too much when all you see in the equation is variables, because you treat them just like numbers. If I subtract a variable from one side, I have to subtract that variable from the other. If I divide a variable on one side, I have to divide by that variable on the other side. So I follow the same properties of equality whether I have a variable or whether I have a number. So if I look at this problem 2, ax minus bx equals c, and I'm solving it for x, I look here and I see that I have an x in each of these two terms, ax and the bx term. In order to get the x by itself, I have to pull it away from the other terms. So what I do here is I kind of go backwards using the distributive property. Since x is common to both terms, I can pull it out, which then would leave a minus b in parentheses, as we can see right here. So then I have x times the quantity a minus b. So that means to get that quantity a minus b to the other side, I would divide both sides by this a minus b. Do it here, and I do it here. That allows it to cancel out on that side. So I end up with x equals c divided by a minus b. I solved for x, got x by itself. So now I'm finished. So now let's look at this got it problem number 2. Let's do it together here. Again, I'm solving for x. Solving for x. So I look on the same side of the equal sign that the x is on, and I see that I have this r. So since the r is added here, I need to subtract it on both sides. That zeroes it out right here. And since t and r are not like terms, I just write what's going on that left side, which is negative t minus r equals, then I have my px. Now I'm solving for x, so I have p times x. So I do the inverse operation of multiplying by p, which would be dividing by p. And if I do it on the right, I also have to do it on the left, which allows my p's to cancel here. So I'm left with negative t minus r divided by p equals x. And our last example that we're going to look at today is rewriting a geometric formula. Our problem asks us, what is the radius of a circle with a circumference of 64 feet? Round to the nearest tenth. Use 3.14 for pi. Well, if I'm talking about the circumference of a circle, I need to know its formula first. So if you don't know it, Google it, find out what the formula is, and then we come up with c equals 2 pi r. That is the appropriate formula. Now they're asking us to find the radius. So that is the r in the formula. So that means I want to solve for r. I want to get the r by itself. So if I look on the side with the r in my formula, I see I have the 2 pi. So then I need to divide both sides here by 2 pi. That allows it to cancel. My 2 and my pi cancel right here and leaves me with r equals c divided by 2 pi. Now I know that the circumference of the circle is 64 feet. So I take that 64 and I put it in for my c that I just found out on the side that r equals, and then in place of my pi here, I would put 3.14, and you end up with approximately 10.2. So the radius of our circle is about 10.2 feet. So if I have this got it problem here, what is the height of a triangle that has an area of 24 inches squared and a base with a length of 8 inches? Then I can use my formula for a triangle, which if I look up formula for area of a triangle, I see that the area equals 1/2 base times height. So that means I want to solve for my height. I want to solve for my height here. So I want to get this h here by itself. So following my steps for solving an equation, I want to get rid of that 1/2 first, the fraction. To do that, I multiply both sides here by 2, which gives me 2 times a. Now 2 times 1/2 is 1 and cancels out bh. So I have b times h. So then I would divide both sides by the b to get that h by itself. So I end up with 2a divided by b equals h. So now I can substitute. I know that the area is 24, so I could have 2 times 24 divided by my base of 8, and that's going to give me my height. So if I figure that out, I've got 2 times 24, which is 48, divided by 8, and 48 divided by 8 is 6. So therefore the height of my triangle is 6.